making homemade food convenient. Good morning. We're back again with another homemade restock. Y'all absolutely loved the last video that I posted. I enjoyed it as well. I love doing homemade restock videos, switching things from that I might have used to buy from the store, and I'm making them homemade for my family, regardless if I am prepping it for the freezer, making it convenient to be able to feed my family homemade from scratch meals. That's one of the things I have been really loving about this healing journey, is that I have been, focusing on making a lot more things homemade, and that it is healthier, and I know the ingredients that are in it for me and for my family. And so one of the things that has really helped me through this process is making homemade foods convenient. Going ahead and having the homemade jars, box mixes, having like homemade meal kits ready to go in your pantry, having homemade biscuits, breads, and things ready in the freezer. If you can take the time to make those things homemade, have them prepped and ready to go, it helps make homemade food super convenient, so that way you're able to feed your family homemade food. So today is a fun one. I actually got quite a bit of free apples. Y'all know me, if anybody's gonna offer me free food, I'm definitely gonna take it. Now, we aren't fans of green apples. They're just super tart. So I'm going to preserve these. We're gonna make some apple jam, or in my case, I'm gonna do kind of apple jam and apple pie filling. But I wanna make the apple pie filling for my homemade hand pies, like my fried pies. And the recipe that I found on Pinterest for this homemade apple jam seems perfect for my fried pies, because I like smaller pieces and it just fits a lot better, and I think the texture is better in my opinion. And that's totally me, the texture issue. But we're gonna make some apple jam out of these. I don't know how many I'm gonna get, so we will just see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. We have got 17 free green apples that we need to do something with. So we are going to preserve these and be able to use them in the future. You can have it on toast, on biscuits, or in my case, like I said, it's gonna be perfect for my homemade fried pies, which I've not made in a long time. So I'm super excited about this. So let's go ahead, get these washed and peeled, and then I will make sure to have the recipe that I'm following down below for you guys. Now, remember, I'm not a canning tutorial channel, so I will show y'all how I'm gonna do the apple jam itself. You can choose to can it how you want to. Y'all will just see me put it to music and everything. And then of course there will be other things in this video as well that we are preserving, putting up. It is storming right now, so I might be talking through thunder. But one of the things I love about canning, now that I started canning last year, is that it really does help me get a lot more things on my shelf. It helps me, have a lot more of those homemade convenience foods, regardless if it, is for a sweet treat, jam, apple pie filling. I mean, I have vegetables, I've got soups, I have all kinds of stuff on my shelves thanks to me canning. I can do so much more prep, convenience prep, homemade, than I did before. And, the ingredients in it. Now, even if you're not a canner, there's a lot of these recipes that, you can make and not have to can it. You can put it in the fridge, depending on what recipe, you can put it in your fridge for a few weeks. You can freeze a lot of these things but making homemade foods convenient has been such a blessing because, you know, there's times where we're super busy and I, you know, don't have the time to, you know, make a from scratch meal. And so, you know, just doing these little things like this, you know, making those homemade swaps, having those things on my shelf ready to go, you know, even in the freezer, you know, like last video I did homemade pancakes. I have them ready to go in the freezer. I did some biscuits, like anything that you can take an afternoon and prep ahead. You know the ingredients that's in it. You know that it's healthier and better for your family. Like, I don't know, I just absolutely love it. I love making homemade from scratch convenient. And it has just been a blessing, you know, making these swaps for my family, you know, giving them the healthier options. Now, yes, we all know that homemade jelly and jams are full of sugar, but it's nothing compared to you buying it from the store. Because it's minimal ingredients. Like I said, you know what's in it. You know what's going inside your body. And it is delicious. So for this recipe, I'm just going to peel them. Back here, I just have a bowl of water, and that's just going to help it not brown while I'm getting the rest of these peeled. But I'm just going to dice these on the smaller side. And then we're going to toss them in some lemon juice and some sugar. And then I'm going to put them in the fridge for several hours. The recipe says overnight, but it is the morning for me. So I'm just going to keep them in there probably till tonight. And then I will get them out of the fridge. Winston's over here making himself some breakfast. But as I was saying, I'm going to put these in the fridge probably till tonight. And then we will get them out, cook them down on the stove, and then we will can them. So we'll go ahead and finish peeling these though. Okay, I got all of the apples chopped. Now, as I've been chopping them and putting them in here, I have been adding in some lemon juice just to help with the browning. And then I'm just gonna kind of roughly measure mine out so I know how much sugar I need to add. I got about 13, 14 cups here. So those apples made a ton. Now it will cook down, so it won't be as much. Okay, so just so y'all ain't shocked, this is gonna be a lot of sugar. I'm going to just mix this together. And then I'm going to put this in the fridge. And then we'll come back to it tonight. cook it down. Okay, if you wanted to make the most out of your apples, you can use these apple peels and cores to make apple cider vinegar, or you can cook them down on the stove or in the crock pot and make apple juice and turn that into apple jelly. There's a ton of options that you can use, just the peelings, if you want to get the most out of a product. I don't use a lot of apple cider vinegar, so right now that's not one of the things that I want to make. I think I've bought like 1 bottle, maybe 2 bottles in my lifetime. That's just not something that I use a lot of. Now that might come in the future, but right now that's not. I have already made apple jelly out of scraps and it was so good. Apple scrap jelly is so good. There is so much flavor in these, so you can do so many things with them if you want to. Like I said, stretch this even further. And, you know, for me, these apples were free, so that is really good. So we'll come back tonight and we will cook down those apples after they sit all day. And I am so excited about this one, you guys. Okay, now I'm going to restock my minute rice. I've made this before and I absolutely love it. I used to get the big boxes of minute rice from Sam's Club, but now I just make my own and it's great. So just make the rice according, you know, however you like it, whatever your favorite recipe is. The recipe that I've been using, I will have linked down below. It has been my favorite. I've always had problems cooking rice, but doing it this way, I don't know, it works. I'm not going to add any butter or olive oil or anything to this, since I am dehydrating it to put on my shelf. The fats and oils can go rancid, so for a longer shelf life and making sure I don't have to worry about nothing, I don't add anything to it when I am dehydrating it. But I'm just gonna make my rice. We will let it cool and then we will get it put on the dehydrator trays. Okay, I've got my rice here. I've just fluffed it. It's cooled. And I'm just going to add it as even as I can to these trays, and then we will get it put in the dehydrator. Okay, so I was able to get 4 trays. Try to get them as even as I can. And then I'm gonna get this on. I don't remember how long it took last time. I just, you know, keep an eye on it. I don't necessarily do like a certain time frame. I just keep coming back and checking on it. And then you just wanna make sure that it is completely dry. And then whenever I did this last time, for reconstituting it, like in the microwave, like you would minute rice from the store, it took like 2 extra minutes longer than the store-bought. But other than that, it was the same texture, same taste, everything. Love doing this. Okay, my apples have been sitting for about 7 hours, so I'm gonna go ahead and cook these down. So I've got my colander here. I'm draining off any of that sugary apple yumminess liquid, and we are going to bring that to a boil first, and then we will add our apples in and we will cook in the apples. Now, apples is a natural pectin, so you don't have to add any kind of thickener to this at all. It will thicken up all on its own and be yummy and delicious. So we're just gonna let this come to a boil. Okay, our apple sugar mixture is boiling. So I'm gonna add in our apples. And then we're just gonna cook this down for about 25-30 minutes. We're gonna stir it frequently, that way we know that it's not burning at the bottom. And then while this is doing its thing, I'm gonna go ahead and get my water bath canner ready and getting all this stuff ready. This smells so good, and all it is sugar and apples. I think I may add some cinnamon in here, but that is just something that I'm adding, and that's not, you know, in the recipe. But I think it would be good, especially for the fried pies, and even on biscuits, it's gonna be good. Some cinnamon, just a little bit. Yep, that smells like Christmas. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm just gonna let this cook down, thicken up, and we'll be ready to can it. The rice is done. So I'm just gonna break it up, and then we'll put it in a jar. There is some clumps. Excuse my nails, I was just in the garden, I promise they're clean. But I'm just gonna like break up the clumps, and then we'll just get it put into a jar or two. I'm not sure if this is gonna fill up a jar, and then we'll just let it sit on the counter. Anytime I dehydrate anything, you want to sit it on the counter for a few days and let it condition, and make sure you don't see any moisture or anything in the jar before you put it up for longer term. So we'll put it in a jar and then just sit it on the counter, keep an eye on it for a couple days. If you do see moisture in the jar whenever you do that, just put it back in the dehydrator. Put it back in there for a few more hours, give it a couple, give it a little bit more time, and it will finish drying out. But that helps you by conditioning it. You're keeping an eye on it for a couple days, and that way if it needs to be put back in there or if it's fully dry. So that way you're not going to be wasting food. So this was 2 cups of white dry rice. I don't know if I said that. I've made 2 cups of rice earlier. So this is what I got out of 2 cups. And yeah, I really like having this. Like I said, this is my second time doing this. The first time I did it just to see if we liked it and if it, cooked up good. And it did, and I'm, excited to do more. Rice is something that I keep on hand all the time. So for me, this saves me, a lot of money, because we do go through a lot of minute rice just for convenience. And, making it yourself, I didn't have to worry about going and buying, the minute rice. I can easily make it myself. And y'all, I tasted this and it is so good. This jar I'm going to put in the fridge and I'll probably make some pan pies tomorrow. But these are all sealed and beautiful. And now I don't have to. This is way better than that apple pie filling that you get in the store. Let's be honest. So good. So I had a very successful, I made a huge mess with that rice. But I had a very successful day in the kitchen, putting up stuff that I needed to, helping me with no food waste and saving me some money. So I was given a bunch of squash. Locally, a lot of people have already got their squash coming in. If you watch my other videos, you know that I have been struggling with trying to get my squash and zucchini to grow. But my sister-in-law and another friend gave me some squash, so I had a ton of it. I have been making a lot of baked goods and recipes, which you guys will see those later. But I wanted to make sure to put up a bunch of it. That way I can have it ready to go on my shelf, dehydrated. This is going to help me have those baked goods year-round using that squash and zucchini. You can also turn it into a powder, use it for baking. You can make zucchini and squash flour. You can grind it up and make the flour, use it as a thickening agent. You can also add it in to soups. You can reconstitute it, and you can make squash hush puppies. You can make different squash recipes with it. Like I said, you can use it for your baking. You can have muffins and breads and cakes and all the things year round. And so I wanted to make sure to put up some of it. So I did do that a couple days ago. I will add it into this video, but it is so easy. Wash your squash, shred it up, and then wring it. Of course, there's a lot of water in squash and zucchini, so wring it out really well. And then I just put it on my dehydrator trays, dehydrated it until it was dry, and it was super, super easy. And now I have it ready to go for anything I could possibly need it for, and it's preserved for future recipes, baked goods, and all the things. I do have a little bit of zucchini left from last year, and I love adding that in, even to like quiches. You can sprinkle some into quiches just to be able to add in, little veggie here and there. Just, like I said, for different recipes. I loved having that zucchini put up for last year, and so I definitely want to make sure to get more zucchini plus the squash. And I feel like it is so easy. That's one of those things that is super easy to preserve and have put on your shelves. Now I am also going to be canning squash. That is a Rebel canning recipe. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, and that is fine. I consider myself a beginner Rebel canner. If that's not your vibe, that is totally fine. But once I get some decent squash that doesn't look really rough on the outside, I do plan on getting some canned. I canned some last year, and I loved having that on the shelf. You can drain it, pat it dry. You can saute it in the pan. You can add it into soups and stews for the winter. And so that's the other way that I like to preserve it. You can also freeze it. I froze a bunch last year as well. Slice it up real thin and put it on. I've already shared that. I have already shared that on here. I will have that video linked down below. I don't know if it's a full video on YouTube or if it was a video for TikTok. Either way, I'll have those linked down below because I'm not going to sit here and explain that to you because I've already shared that. But, even having it ready to go in your freezer is super convenient. But one of the things that I've noticed for me personally, and that I'm kind of shifting how I prep things, is because if I have certain things in the freezer, I'm not as apt to use it if I have it dehydrated, or if I have it canned, home canned on my shelf. I've noticed that when it's like right there and I can see it, I'm more likely to use it versus digging through my deep freeze and trying to use it. So that is one of the things I'm doing a little different this year with putting up and preserving food for us, is I'm taking that into consideration. The stuff that I froze last year that I didn't necessarily get around to using because it's buried in my freezer. And there's just a lot of things that, you know, I prefer to have home canned and dehydrated, even, you know, and it takes up a lot of space in your freezer. And so if I can preserve it in a different way where it's not in my freezer, I seem to enjoy that better, you know, for different things. But dehydrating it is super helpful. It's super easy. It does not take long at all. The longest part is just waiting for the dehydrator, you know, for it to dehydrate. It's about 8 to 10 hours for it to get dehydrated. And I don't take the seeds out or anything. A lot of people do. I shred it up, the whole thing. I wash it, shred it up, and then just put it right on my dehydrator sheets, get it dehydrated. And that's it. Now I've got it on my shelf and I can add it to all kinds of different things. I really hope y'all enjoyed today's video. Hope it gave you some encouragement and inspiration to prep some things for yourself, homemade things that you can have put back in different ways and be able to feed your family those homemade convenience foods when we don't have a lot of time to do that. But you want, you know, those homemade convenience foods. We know they're better for us. We know that, you know, it is way better to do that, but there's a lot of times where we don't have time to, you know, cook from scratch all the time. And when you can have them on your shelf in different ways, you know, preserved in different ways, even in your freezer, it helps us make homemade food easy.